In this box is a GPS drone for under $100. Let's take a look and see if it's worth your hard-earned cash. This is the Visuo XS812, right? It is a folding drone, much like the DJI Mavic, but don't confuse this for a Mavic. It's not a Mavic. That's what they want you to think, but it's under $100. So realistically, it's not going to compare. But that doesn't mean it isn't a good drone. For under $100, you got to compare it to things like the Tello and maybe even the Unique Breeze. Let's talk about the camera first. It is an adjustable angle camera, so it does tilt up and down. It'll connect to your phone via Wi-Fi, so you can see the FPV feed while you're flying, and it does record via an SD card on board. Now, I missed that the first time I flew this. I read through the directions, and of course, these directions aren't the best. Rarely drones in this price range coming out of China have really in-depth directions, and this is on par with that. They're not terrible, not the worst I've seen, but doesn't indicate anything about where that SD card is. So I assumed that we were recording to our phone, which is common with a handful of drones. Quick shout out to my man James Branch, who was the first to let us know that it does record on an SD card in here. And the way that you do that is you actually have to remove this camera module. You pull it forward, and the SD card goes in there. It's not the best design, but it's a whole lot better than recording to your phone. This is supposed to be a 5-megapixel camera. It isn't, right? It's actually closer to 2. It records everything in 1280 by 720, whether that's pictures or video, at 24 frames per second. So know that. It's not super duper high quality, not terrible. It actually takes really good pictures when the drone isn't moving. But because I have to connect it this way, there are no isolation mounts, which means as the drone flies, it vibrates a little bit. You're going to pick up a little bit of that fuzziness in your pictures and video. So it's not going to be quite as clear as really you wish it was. This thing is super stable, super level. One of the better implementations of GPS we've seen, especially for a drone under $100. I actually had Chris walk up to it and pull it away, and you can see it's going to snap back into place where the GPS tells it it needs to be. So for a brushed motor GPS quad, this is one of the best I've seen, and heck, it's still under $100. All right, so let's come back to this thing in flight. You want to see it fly around. I told you it's stable. It is stable, but it's also a lot of fun to fly. It's easy to control. It's fairly responsive. You know, I was a little bit worried about it being a brush motor drone, but it still handles the wind, light wind, pretty darn good. As you see it flying around here, pretty stable, easy to fly drone, excellent for a beginner. In terms of the quality for the camera, as you see here, it is okay flying around. I get decent video. I think I like the pictures a little bit better, but it's okay. For $100, not terrible. I'm certainly not gonna ditch my Mavic Pro 2 for this, but an excellent drone. I'm gonna probably give this one to my son and let him fly it around. It's a great drone for someone like that. Now, in terms of value, for under $100, there are very few drones as nice as this one. I actually got 2 batteries for this. There are a few different versions, a 2-megapixel, a 5-megapixel. You can get it with 1 battery, you can get it with 2 or 3. I recommend you go with the 2-megapixel camera. Now, normally I would say get the better camera, but I have the better camera, and it's not better, right? It's speccing out close to what a 2-megapixel camera is going to be anyway, so go with that. I've seen some other reviews of the 5 versus the 2. They're the same camera, so either that's a mistake on their part or some shadiness. I don't know. Either way, go with the 2-megapixel camera. I'd recommend you get one with 2 or 3 batteries because that's going to make flying a whole lot more fun. It does have a pretty impressive flight time of up to 14 minutes, so if you're getting extra batteries, you're going to have some serious fun flying this thing. The range, again, is going to be dependent on that Wi-Fi signal and how strong that is, right? I don't recommend you fly this out of line of sight. It will fly a little bit further. They say about 200 meters, 5G Wi-Fi, which means you're going to need a phone that is capable of that, but really that's not realistic. Wi-Fi signal is going to cut out somewhere between 50 and 100 most likely. Let's take a look at the remote. There are a handful of buttons on here. Up on the top, you'll notice we have speed, multiple speeds. I highly recommend flying in the highest speed mode, especially if there is wind. Up here in the upper right, you'll see there's an orbit button. Now, I played around with that. It does something. I wouldn't exactly call it an orbit. It kind of spun and then flew. There are waypoints. Again, not something I would recommend you try. I think flying with waypoints on a drone like this is really playing with fire. It's a recipe for disaster. Yes, they do kind of work, but not going to be a recommendation for me. If you want to fly with waypoints, you need a better drone with a better camera, right? That's really kind of the whole point. There are buttons on here that are super important that I do recommend you take a look at. And the biggest one right here is right here, this return to home on the bottom. That does work. And that it can be a lifesaver in case you lose orientation of the drone. I was flying in the morning, lost sight of it, pushed that button, it flew up and then back, which is super important. That is absolutely worth it. It does have follow me, which works as well, so that's kind of nice. So this drone does have some good features. Now, would I recommend this over, say, a Tello or a Breeze? That's hard to say. I really like the Tello, but this does have some advantages over it for sure. It's larger, it's more stable, and I'm flying with an actual remote. Now, I do like the Tello camera a little bit better. It has electronic image stabilization. That said, this one is actually a little bit cheaper depending on the version you get. You can get it closer to $80 versus $100, depending on the packages. Again, if you're sticking with the 2 megapixel camera, which is my recommendation, you're gonna stay under $100. Now, when it comes to the Unique Breeze, I'm gonna go with that one. It has a 4K camera, image stabilization, better GPS, more flight modes that do all work, but that one's gonna cost you a little bit more, $150 to $200. So really the choice is yours. So for $100, this is probably the best GPS drone in that price point, right? Excellent for beginners, definitely worth taking a look. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you check us out on halfchrome.com, and we're also writing for the Drone DJ. Check us out there at dronedj.com. 2 places, lots of drones. Have a good day.